So where in England do you experience panoramic views just like this one? Well, the good news is, getting to this exact spot is surprisingly straightforward, but then the real adventure begins. So first things first, let's get our bearings. We start in a city that almost needs no introduction. Brighton and Hove on the south coast of England is the country's largest seaside resort. Anyone who's paid it a visit on a warm summer weekend will attest to just how large and indeed how popular it is. But how do we get from the iconic Palace Pier to the sprawling vista seen in the opening seconds of this video? Well, by taking a bus from pretty much this exact spot, the 77 bus to be precise, departing every 45 minutes from just outside the pier straight to our destination. After about half an hour of travelling inland through one of Brighton's affluent suburbs, the road thins and the landscape changes dramatically and auspiciously as we cross over into West Sussex. Even before our official arrival, the views are already plentiful at this point, but it's time to end the mystery aspect of this mystery tour, as the National Trust signage welcomes us to Devil's Dyke. This quirky name alludes to the legend that the devil dug a giant ditch here in order to punish the early Saxon settlers for converting to Christianity. Whilst digging, in the hope of reaching the sea and flooding the area, he awoke an old lady. When she lit a candle to investigate, the devil fled, leaving his work unfinished. The more scientific hypothesis hints at periglacial conditions experienced during the last ice age, whereby freeze-thaw cycles gradually broke up the land and dissolved the chalk, or something like that. But to explain that one properly is above my pay grade. In any case, you're looking at the longest, deepest and widest dry valley in the UK. John Constable called it the grandest view in the world, and he knew a thing or two about views. What's particularly striking though is its location. The southeast region of England is not a mountainous one, literally, as there are no mountains here. The southwest has Dartmoor National Park, the West Midlands has the eastern fringe of the Brecon Beacons, and the East Midlands and northern regions have various parts of the Pennines just for starters, and the Lake District in the case of the northwest. As for Scotland and Wales, well, they're doing more than alright in that department, so there's generally not much incentive for mountaineers to head this way. And yet, here we are at the country's deepest dry valley, with views completely unobscured for dozens of miles. From here, in the heart of the South Downs National Park, we can see all the way to the Weald, the hills on the horizon, which were at the core of the iron industry in the southeast during the medieval era. You may be wondering at this point about the houses seen in the distance. Well, this area is inhabited with various villages. Are they as idyllic as you might be imagining them to be? Well, let's explore a couple of them to find out. Now, the signage here is a little terse, with the only hints offered being whether or not you can lead a horse down a given path. As for Google Maps, well, this whole area appears on it as little more than a blank patch of green. So how will we find these villages? Well, those of us old enough to remember the 20th century will feel right at home in rekindling the lost art of following our noses, in the figurative sense. So the first task is to make it down to street level. And so, with the buildings in view, we begin our descent. The path winds, but ultimately provides little challenge. That is, compared to the climb back up, which we'll see later. After surveying the area we've just come from, but from ground level this time, complete with a group of paragliders in view off in the distance, we make it towards the end of the path, as it gives way to the first spot of tarmac since the bus ride in. The road provides plenty of cover in which to sidestep oncoming traffic, of which there's hardly any anyway, leaving us free to take in some more paragliding action on the horizon. This road then becomes a wooded path, which leads us right into our first village, a charming village with an interesting Saxon name, and I have to be careful with this one, Fulking. Now here's a picturesque and some might say Tolkien-esque settlement, whose presence was once graced by the legendary polymath John Ruskin, who, as an aside, penned one of the most profound statements ever on architecture, a subject for another video perhaps. As to his contribution to this village, well, along with local businessman Henry Willett, the two supplied water to the area with a hydraulic ram pump, which was in use from 1886 to 1951, and whose system remains intact to this day. Oh, and if you're feeling thirsty, you can head to the pub for some locally produced Fulking Ale. Thank you. About a mile to the east, another village awaits us, so we take to the pleasantly forgiving country road once again. The road features very few buildings, save for this barn, which will become a key point of reference at the end, and off to the side we have some woolly inhabitants. And soon thereafter we arrive in the village of Punnings, a village of both similar size and charm as its neighbour to the west, and also equipped with a local boozer, providing respite for the hikers. Of particular note here is the Grade 1 listed Holy Trinity Church. This was built in circa 1370 by the brothers Thomas and Richard de Punnings upon the death of their father Michael, who had fought for Edward III during the 100 Years' War. But all medieval distractions aside, it's time to bring this tour full circle, which means we now face a tricky ascent. An inconspicuous gap between houses forms our pathway up to the top. Once again, a sign provides us with a clear choice, which is thus: will you take the bridle way, or do you like to live dangerously? In which case, take the footpath. After choosing the footpath, we soon understand that the implication was this is the not fit for horses path. But no bother, we simply go up the stairs. And more stairs. And more stairs. And grassy stairs. And a slope where they ran out of stairs. And a gap in the flowers implying a stairway. With most of the hard work out of the way, we assess the view behind us as we make a mental note to cancel our next cardio session at the gym, before finishing off the flowery path to the top. Last but not least, we take a moment to retrace our steps from our new overhead perspective. From here we can see Punnings, followed by the road that got us there, then the barn with the sheep opposite, and finally the village of Fulking. So in summary, is Devil's Dyke worth a trip? Well, bear in mind that I have no affiliation to the National Trust, but considering the following: there's no entry fee, there's no specialist equipment required besides a sturdy set of walking shoes, and it's as simple as a single bus ride from Brighton, which drops you off right there, and moreover significantly less crowded than Brighton itself. Yes, I can highly recommend it. Would I go as far as John Constable and call it the grandest view in the world? Not quite, but you'd have to go a very long way to find a better view. After all, you do have to give the devil his due. Thanks for watching and have a great day.